Hello. Please, we want to announce that in a moment the procession will start. We are really sorry for starting behind schedule, but we are glad that at last we are starting, especially with our distinguished guests all seated now. Soon the academic procession will commence and we will follow through this program seamlessly. We would like to request that our students and our guests who are seated far behind, would you please kindly adjust your seating, kindly move forward so that we can have a better arrangement and view. We appreciate your kind adjustment, but please, I would like you to make space for members of Senate who will be processing any moment now. Please, you will find the designated seats for members of Senate. Please, our ushers, kindly pull our guests who are not on their academic robes to kindly move 3 rows behind. Kindly ensure that this directive is carried out. If you are not a member of Senate and you are not robing, please move back on the 2 rows on my right column. We appreciate your compliance. Please, our friends, our students, members of the Students' Union Government who are seated far behind, please kindly move forward so that the hall will not be in disorder. We appreciate your compliance, please. I'd like to announce the order of procession for the 12th Convocation Lecture of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Omodike. Academic staff, members of Senate who are not professors, deans of colleges, and the Dean of Student Affairs, the Dean of the Postgraduate School, the University Orator, the University Librarian, the Bursar, the Registrar, our 12th Convocation Lecturer, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, and of course, our Vice Chancellor. May we please rise as the academic procession touches the hall. The academic procession on this momentous occasion, the 12th Convocation Lecture of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Omodike. Academic staff in front, members of Senate who are not professors, members of Senate who are professors, deans of colleges, dean of student affairs, dean of postgraduate school, the university orator, the university librarian, the bursar of our university, registrar, the 12th Convocation Lecturer, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, and of course, the 6th Vice Chancellor of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Mudike. Please let members of our Senate occupy the place that we have reserved for them. The university orator is up here. The university librarian is up here. The bursar of our university, the registrar, the convocation lecturer, deputy vice administration, the national anthem. Our university anthem.
Behold the citadel of learning, Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, a blend of technologies, the great university. Praise God, dear Lord, bless the citadel of learning, guide heart, this great handiwork of God.
As we are still standing, may I respectfully invite Professor Greg Onwuka to please come forward and lead us in an opening prayer.
In Jesus' name. Eternal King of Glory, would like to appreciate you. For Lord, you have been our Ebenezer. You have been our helper. Thank you for our university. Thank you for peace. thank you for another time of convocation. Thank you for helping us in the planning. And this great day, we have brought our friends, our relations, our visitors safely to this university. We thank you. We want to commit this convocation lecture into your hand. Pray especially for the convocation lecturer, for wisdom, for insight, for grace. And as we listen, may we be blessed. May, oh God, your grace be multiplied unto us today. We hand every segment of this program into your hand. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Please, we may be seated. The chairman of the 12th Convocation Lecture of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, the Executive Governor of Imo State and the 12th Convocation Lecturer, the Pro-Chancellor of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, members of the Governing Council of this great institution, the Vice Chancellor and Chairman of Senate, Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, visiting Vice Chancellors here present, Principal Officers of our university, Deans and Directors, Professors and members of Senate of our great university, members of the Imo State Executive Council here present, heads of departments and units of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, traditional rulers from our host communities, visiting traditional rulers from our neighboring states, staff, the student union government, and all students of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, my lords, spiritual and temporal, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome to the 12th Convocation Lecture of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, holding today, November 29, 2024, in Senator Anyim Pius Anyim Auditorium. It is my pleasure to introduce dignitaries on this occasion. It's my honor and privilege to introduce to us the chairman of the 12th Convocation Lecture of this great university, a professor of agrotechnology and bioresource engineering, the former dean of the School of Postgraduate School, Enugu State University of Technology, a former dean of the Faculty of Engineering, also in ESUT, a former member of the Governing Council of ESUT, and the national chairman of Nzuko Ozondibo in Nigeria. My pleasure to invite to the high table, Professor Ike Oloka. Please put your hands together for him. And may we usher him to the table, please. Our ushers, could you please lead our chairman to the high table? Distinguished audience, can we put our hands together for the chairman of our occasion today? Thank you. It's my pleasure once again to introduce to us the Executive Governor of Imo State, His Excellency Distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, the 12th Convocation Lecturer of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, is here ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Tertiary Education, Professor Victor Nwachukwu. Please, can we put our hands together for His Excellency? I have the honor and privilege to introduce the chairman of the Governing Council of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Modike, a lawyer, an accomplished unionist, a farmer, a man of many parts, a former vice president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, our dear comrade, Fidelis C. Ede. Please give our Pro-Chancellor a round of applause. And may the ushers please bring our Pro-Chancellor to the high table. I'll appreciate if you can put your hands together for our Pro-Chancellor, please. I would also like to introduce to us a man who is sharply focused, undeterred. Not long ago, we interviewed him and we said, "Sir, how come you are so calm and unperturbed in the midst of the challenges going on in the nation?" And he said, "My hope is in God." I'm talking about the 6th Vice Chancellor of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Modike, a certified food scientist of international repute, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology, and a fellow of several international organizations. I'm talking about Professor Madwe BBC of Iwe. Let's put our hands together for our dear Vice Chancellor. I thought we would have clapped more for our Vice Chancellor. I really thought so. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to introduce members of the Governing Council of this great university. I'd like to introduce a senior advocate of Nigeria, our dear Yakubu A.H. Ruba. Let's put our hands together for him. I also like this great audience to please recognize the presence of Senator Uche Ekunife, a member of our Governing Council. Please put your hands together. I also like to introduce another member of council, Chief Oladapo Akinshola. Chief, you are welcome to this convocation lecture. My pleasure and honor to also introduce to us Honorable Daniel Timothy Burak. Let's put our hands together for Honorable Daniel. You're welcome, sir. I also like to introduce to us a member of our Governing Council representing the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, our dear Dr. Deola Tayo, Lord Banjo. You're welcome, sir. Put your hands together for him. Also representing the Federal Ministry of Education, we have another member of council, Dr. Yusuf Said. Dr. Yusuf Said. Let's put our hands together for him. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to us the chairman of the University Ceremonials Committee, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic of our university, Professor Norma Elechi Obase. Let's put our hands together for her. In the same vein, I introduce to us the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Osla Ngozi Akanwa. Let's put our hands together for her. I really thank the audience for clapping. Thank you very much indeed. Another member of council that I have the pleasure to introduce, Professor Charles C. Ononuju, member of council. Let's welcome him. Professor Obonnaya Inya Okoro, also a member of council. You're welcome, sir. I also introduce you as Professor Donatus I. Ibokwe, member of council. And now there, Professor Anthony A. Nlewadim, member of council. You're welcome, sir. Mrs. Okangwa O.K. Onoma, member of council. Let's put our hands together for her. And Dr. Igwe Oscar Obase, member of council also. We welcome you, sir. My pleasure to introduce to us the registrar of this great citadel of learning and secretary to council, Dr. Mrs. Nkiruka Charity Mbanaso. Our dear registrar, you are welcome. My pleasure to introduce the bursar of this great university, Mr. Ugochukwu Isikako Ironkwe. Adia bursar, you are welcome. In the same vein, I'd like to introduce to us the university librarian. He is Dr. Isaac Madrabuchi Obonna. You are welcome too. Our dear Vice Chancellor, sir, the governor of Imo State did not come alone to this convocation lecture. He came with the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, our dear Mr. Declan Emelumba. You are welcome, sir. Let's put our hands together for Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy. In the same vein, we recognize the presence of the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Student Affairs, Honorable Uche Udemado. Honorable, you are also welcome to our university. The Special Assistant to the Governor on Industrial Hub, we also welcome you. He is Emma DK. We welcome you to our campus. I understand that there are many other people, great personalities, who accompanied His Excellency to this great occasion. Mr. Chairman, sir, permit me to recognize Right Honorable Maxwell Duru, PhD, Secretary, Imo State Council of Elders. Honorable, you are welcome. I also recognize Barrister Raymond Uchoma with officers of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, Imo State. You are all welcome to our great university. Those with him include Sir Kennedy Nwagu, Osuji Felicia C., Tochi Okonkwo, Dr. Salome C. Osuji, and Nzeribe Franklin Nkem. You are all welcome to this occasion. Our dear chairman of this great occasion, the Pro-Chancellor and our Vice-Chancellor, we have with us the son of the man whom this university is named after, our dear late Dr. Michael I. Obara. His son is here with us. My pleasure to introduce Chief Uzodimma Okpara Omekanaya. You're welcome, sir. We recognize specially all our professors and deans and directors and those who I do not have their names here but have come from far and wide to grace this occasion. We recognize you and we welcome you warmly. If you don't mind, would you please put your hands together for all of yourselves? And it's on this note that I would like to hand over the microphone to the registrar of our university, Dr. Mrs. Nkiruka Charity Mbanaso, to take on the proceedings of this 12th convocation lecture from this point. May we please put our hands together for our registrar.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the protocol is already established, and I beg to stand on this existing protocol. I have the honor to most respectfully invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Madu Ebubisi of Iwe, CFS, FNI, FST, to make his opening remarks and declare the 12th convocation lecture of this university open.
Kulu Kulu Tempa. We are not recognizing enemies today. We are recognizing friends and students. Thank you very much. The chairman of the occasion and the lecturer for our 12th convocation lecture, Pro-Chancellor of the university, and all of us that are gathered here this afternoon, I welcome us to the Michael Opera University of Agriculture Mudike 12th Convocation Lecture, holding in these premises this afternoon. I know that it's going to be a wonderful outing. I just want to request that you prepare your minds to feast from this big pot that is steaming hot. On behalf of the Senate and members of this community, I want to say welcome once again as we look forward to a very beautiful afternoon and evening. I therefore rise to declare the 12th convocation lecture of Michael Opera University of Agriculture Mudike open. Thank you.
It is my singular honor to invite the chairman of the 12th Convocation Lecture, Senator Barao Jibrin, the Deputy Senate President of Nigeria. He is ably represented by our dear Professor Ike Oluka, Professor of Agrotechnology and Bioresource Engineering, former Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies in ESUT, former Dean, Faculty of Engineering, ESUT, and former member, ESUT Governing Council. So you are hereby invited to make your opening remarks.
Distinguished members of the University Governing Council, led by the able comrade Fidelis Ede, I greet you. Distinguished Vice Chancellor, the man who have turned around many things in the university, I greet you. All members of the high table here present, and distinguished academics here present, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. First of all, I would like to congratulate the university for the 12th convocation ceremony. It is not an easy thing to come to this stage, and it's because the university community, the academics, the management are doing the best they know how to do. An occasion of this nature is when ideas are shared among academics. Things we can go home with and think about are brought to the bar. At the end of the day, you will see the press carrying one thing or the other about the university system. And so, with the university community, the council, and every other person, I thank you for being here. Very importantly, university is seen as a center of learning. It is seen as a place where scholars come together and share ideas. By 1155 AD, when Emperor Barcosa of the Roman Empire established the first university codes detailing what we call the freedom, academic freedom. University then was a place where people from all over Europe, all over the world, including Africa, gather. And there are the specific things scholars were known. That is why they have certain freedom. That is why they have some immunity. But today, if you look at the Nigerian university system, I do not know the universality of the character and learning of universities. Today we have very high local content. I went to a news accreditation to one federal university last week. And when we were looking at the students, more than 85% were from that state. And when you're looking at the academics, the staff, 90% are from that state, a federal university. And so, the real concept of being a universal, acquiring universal character, universal learning, and attitude, I don't know if it is still working very well. For example, when you have high local content, it results to low international content. It results to low national content. And what do you see? Low competition. Ideas are very local. Research are very local. Competition at the international arena are also localized. The implication is that we cannot talk about Nobel Prize winners, because apart from one in literature we had, none in the last 10, 20 years. And so, we would like Nigerian university management to rethink about this character. It is a place for universality of character. If we are lacking it, please. For example, one interview somewhere in the north to be a vice chancellor. And one of the member councils was able to say, what do you think you cross the River Niger and come here to do? To be a vice chancellor of our university? That means you cannot move from one region to the other to be a leader. And the implication is that when you go to Europe, you can move from France to Britain and become anything in the university system. You can move from US to Canada and become anything in the university system. Because they are looking for the best. It doesn't matter where it is coming from. So my position today is to know if we can change that system so that our content will be high internationally, so that we can solve Nigerian problem, because we're supposed to solve the problem of Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless every one of us here.
At this moment, may I also invite the orator of the university, Professor Ifeoma Ije, for the citation of the convocation lecturer. And may I most humbly request the convocation lecturer to remain standing as the citation is made.
The chairman of the 12th convocation lecture, the executive governor of Imo State, and 12th convocation lecturer, ably represented by Honorable Commissioner for Higher Education, Professor Victor Nwachukwu. The Pro-Chancellor of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, our dear comrade Felix Ede, members of the University Governing Council of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, our dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Made BBC of Oiwe, the principal officers of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, professors and members of the University Senate of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, and all the visiting professors here in our midst, the members of various state executives that are here present to accompany our 12th convocation lecturer, heads of departments and units of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, traditional rulers here present, our dear staff and students of Michael Opera University of Agriculture, Mudike, my lords, spiritual and temporal, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, and our dear Umudites, great Umudites, I have the singular honor and privilege to present to you our 12th convocation lecturer, who is ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Higher Education, Imo State, and who also is the current governor of Imo State, an accomplished businessman, politician, industrialist, visionary administrator, a commander of the Order of the Niger, our 12th convocation lecturer, Governor Hope. Please, the media. Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Hope Odidika Uzodinma is currently serving his second term as the governor of Imo State. He is the chairman, Southeast Governors Forum, and the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum. Prior to being elected the governor of Imo State, he served in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for 2 terms, 2011 to 2019. During which he headed the Senate Committee on Customs and Excise and Aviation. Governor Uzodinma holds a diploma in Maritime Management Technology and higher diploma in the same field from Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Futo, Imo State. He also has a Bachelor of Arts in International Studies and Diplomacy from the Washington University, USA. As the governor of Imo State since January 15, 2020, Senator Uzodinma has changed the infrastructure landscape of Imo State through his popular road revolution project, reactivation of public water supply, revival of moribund public industries, and provision of quality healthcare delivery system and functional quality education. Under his watch as governor, more than 100 quality durable roads and bridges have been constructed and commissioned. Notable on the list are the Olu-Owerri Road, Owerri-Okigwe Road, and Owerri-Umuahia Road. His administration, in addition to providing functional primary healthcare centers in the 305 electoral wards in the state, also delivered 3 world-class general hospitals equipped with state-of-the-art facilities. The Owerri Urban Water Scheme, which was moribund for over 20 years, was reactivated by his administration, and residents of the state capital city of Owerri now have access to public water supply. Efforts are being made to also improve the water supply in the cities of Olu and Okigwe. Uzodinma also distinguished himself in the education sector. Apart from renovating and equipping primary schools in 305 electoral wards in the state, he established 2 new universities, in addition to an existing one, a college of education and a polytechnic. In effect, his administration successfully funds and sustains 5 tertiary institutions to ensure that education-thirsty Imo indigents have enough space to pursue their dreams. He had invested copious effort in sanitizing the public civil service by automating their processes, leveraging on world-class data-backed system to automate the payroll, pensions, and salary of the state. In the process, he equally revisited the welfare of 7 public workers and approved service-wide promotion of staff, which had not happened for over 15 years ago. He enrolled all workers in the Imo State Civil Service into compulsory health insurance and has consistently awarded a 13th month salary for all cadre workers. He has raised the minimum wage of workers on 2 occasions in his first term and continues to provide free transport to workers to and fro. One area that Governor Uzodinma has distinguished himself as a visionary leader of note is in the area of leading Imo State into the new age of digital economy. Imo State is the first and only state that has established the Ministry of Digital Economy and e-government. Through his audacious visionary step, his administration has trained 40,000 Imo youths in different digital skills. Over 85% of them are already gainfully employed. His target is to train 300,000 youths in digital skills in the next 2 years. To cap it all, he is currently and fervently pursuing the dredging of Oguta Lake and Orashi River to the Atlantic with the support and approval of the federal government. The ambitious project as a public-private partnership PPP, when completed, will be the catalyst for the rapid economic development of not only Imo State, but the entire Southeast. With great proven gas reserves and designation as a free trade zone for the area already approved by the federal government and access to the sea by the coastal parts of Imo and neighboring states, will certainly boost industrialization for the zone. His deep vision to better the lot of Imo people derives partly from his love for humanity, which is only comparable to his love of country. An unrepentant nationalist, Senator Hope Uzodinma believes so fervently in the Nigerian state that he will not brook any thought of disunity. A pan-Nigerian of note, Uzodinma will go the extra mile and make the extra sacrifice to promote national unity, tolerance, and accommodation. He is also a firm believer in equity and social justice. His friends cut across tribe and religions. They come from the north, the south, the west, and the east. Those close to him readily attest to his unique work ethics and acknowledge that he is a slave to hard work and philanthropy. Governor Uzodinma can be philanthropic to a fault. Often he is prepared to go hungry just to lend a helping hand to the underprivileged. This explains why many now see him as the hope of the hopeless. Senator Uzodinma brings to bear uncommon tenacity and efficiency to his job. This is responsible for the remarkable success he recorded while serving as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Customs, Excise, and Tariffs. As governor of Imo State, he has brought the same knack for fiscal dexterity to bear in the prudent and disciplined management of the finances of the state. All payments and receipts by the government are now automated, thus saving billions of naira for the state. Before venturing into politics, Governor Uzodinma accomplished himself as a businessman. Prior to his election as governor of Imo State in 2019, he had been elected to the Senate in 2011 and again in 2015. Before then, he was the Chief Executive Officer of Niger Global Engineering and Technical Company, the CEO of SMEC Chemical Engineering and Construction Company Limited, CEO Hope Engineering Services Limited, and Chairman Fliltem Hudzoid Oil and Gas. In reality, Uzodinma was an accomplished leader both in private and public sector before becoming a senator and later the governor of Imo State. Uzodinma is a proud recipient of the national honor of the Commander of the Order of the Niger, CON, and the highest honor bestowed on individuals by the government of Rivers State, both of which he received in 2023. He has also received several other awards from different organizations, namely Sun Newspapers, This Day Newspapers, and Nigeria Union of Journalists, which named him Senator of the Year in 2017. Senator Uzodimma is the proud recipient of several traditional titles, but he is particularly happy to be called Onwa Netiroha. Senator Uzodimma spends his spare time reading, writing, and thinking about Nigeria and how we can build a better nation. His thoughts are usually expressed in public lectures, such as this, or in books. While the public lectures are countless, he now authored 3 books, namely Giant Strides of a Democratic Soldier, Volumes 1 and 2, 2015, Contemporary Essays on Nation Building, Ndibo and National Integration, 2018, and Reflections on the Igbo Question, 2022. He is happily married with 9 children.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard it. Join me as we welcome this author, an accomplished businessman, politician, industrialist, visionary administrator, and a father of 9 as he delivers our 12th convocation lecture. Thank you very much.
The chairman of the 12th Convocation Lecture and Deputy President of Senate, Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Executive Governor of Abia State, the Executive Governor of Imo State, represented by my humble self, distinguished senators and members of the National Assembly here present, the Pro-Chancellor of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Mudike, members of the Governing Council of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Mudike here present, the Vice-Chancellor and Chairman of the Senate of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Mudike, Professor Iwe, the visiting Vice-Chancellors and heads of tertiary institutions here present, the Speaker of Abia State House of Assembly, the Speaker of Imo State House of Assembly, Principal Officers of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Deans and Directors here present, my dear professors and members of the Senate of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, members of Abia Executive Council here present, members of Imo Executive Council here present, members of Abia State House of Assembly here present, members of Imo State House of Assembly here present, heads of departments and units of this great university, traditional rulers of the university, host communities, visiting traditional rulers from Imo State, staff and students of this great university, my lords, spiritual and temporal, members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start by first apologizing for the non-physical manifestation of our governor. But I tell you, he is all around here. I want to thank the members of the press for this wonderful catalog, though not exhaustive, of the achievements of this wonderful governor. A man that is as compassionate as his looks. A man that is so focused to develop his state in a hurry. A man that is always trying to fill the gaps in his society the way he met it. And that is the man, by the grace of God, I'm trying to stand in his shoes. A big shoe, but I'll try to see how I can figure into it. Actually, when the appointment came for him to have this lecture delivered, he was really happy to receive the nomination. But being as we are human beings, we cannot fathom the next minute. The exigencies of office and natural issues really culminated, even as of last night, when he was desirous to come. But nature had its way. It's not that he did not want to come physically, but he is here with apologies, and I believe and I pray that you see less of me and see more of my principal, the governor. Don't mind my voice, but listen to what the pen in his hands is going to tell you. And that is what he instructed me strictly to present to you. His Excellency actually is a friend of this university and will continue to be a friend. On that note, I'll take my flight. So from now henceforth, you are not hearing the voice of Professor Victor Nwachukwu. You are going to hear the voice of distinguished Senator Hope Odidika Uzodimma, CON. The introduction. The title of this lecture is Agriculture and National Development in a Diversified Economy, a Vision of Renewed Hope through Town and Gown Entrepreneurial and Partnerships. And this is a convocation lecture delivered by His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodimma at the Michael Obara University of Agriculture, Umudike, on Friday, November 29, 2024. Introduction. I am more delighted to be here to deliver the 12th convocation lecture of this great university, which is rightly named after a great man and hero, Dr. Michael Ihonukara Obara, the late charismatic premier of Eastern Nigeria. I thank God that his son is here. So that's why, from time to time, let us strive to live a fruitful and a positive past, because forever it will always live after us. You're welcome. For those of you who may not know, Dr. Michael Obara remains my role model till tomorrow. Earlier in the year, I was privileged to deliver a lecture in his honor where I wholeheartedly adopted his developmental model of agriculture and industrialization as a way forward in our drive to offer good governance to our people. For this reason, I will always have a sentimental attachment to this institution. I am aware that we have great sons and daughters of Imo State who are here making significant contributions to the advancement of education. I recollect with pride that my immediate past deputy governor, Professor Placid Njoko, a decent man, a man of integrity, an astute administrator, and an accomplished academic, was your pioneer vice chancellor. I could glean from your testimonial that he laid a very solid foundation upon which his successors have been building upon. You can now understand why I can confidently say that I am in the midst of my own people. That's the governor speaking, not Victor Nwachukwu. I am therefore grateful to the Senate and management of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, for this honor you granted me to deliver the 12th convocation lecture of your university. Let me start by congratulating our young graduates in whose honor we are gathered. It is remarkable that we have organized all these activities to congratulate and celebrate them. Let me join all parents, family and friends to congratulate you on this great academic achievement. Forget all the cynicism about the true benefits of education. You have made the right choice. Without education, as you know, you will feel inferior no matter how worthy you become. In fact, you miss out in so many great opportunities in the world. For those who wish to travel abroad, you need a university education to get a decent job. Otherwise, you end up doing the odd jobs for the rest of your lives. So do not allow the current socioeconomic challenges to diminish your happiness and the sense of pride and fulfillment you should have on your day of graduation. So once more, I say congratulations to you all. I also congratulate all the lecturers, non-academic, management, and for yet another bountiful harvest of graduates, whom I believe are ready to take on their next phase of life. When the federal government established this university, alongside the federal universities of Makurdi and Abeokuta, the vision was to create specialized universities that would combine theoretical knowledge and practical skills in driving the agricultural revolution much needed for food security in Nigeria. 30 years on, can we truly say the vision has been realized? That's a big question for all of us here. But I do know that progress is being made. Is it not true? Is it not true, VC? Progress is not being made, it is being made. Going by your curricula, I'm sure that no student lives here without acquiring both the theoretical and practical knowledge of agriculture and related disciplines. In other words, you have been raising potential farmers who will be indispensable in our journey towards food security in Nigeria. I'm also aware that your host communities have been beneficiaries of your social corporate responsibilities. It is on this basis of that knowledge that we shall proceed to interrogate the topic of this convocation lecture, which is agriculture and national development in a diversified economy, a vision of a renewed hope through town and gown entrepreneurial partnerships. Actually, your letter of invitation provided me with 2 lecture topic options. The first option was from the ivory tower to innovation hubs, paving the path to economic transformation and sustainable development. I chose the second option, which is our lecture topic for today, for the simple reason that the topic is more sync with the core mandate of your university. Where else can we discuss agriculture and natural development, if not at a university of agriculture like this? Besides, taking on the topic also enables us to interrogate how far and how well you have kept the faith with your mandates as a dedicated and purpose-built University of Agriculture. So just know that the day of reckoning is today through this lecture. I believe we can take it for granted that we all know that agriculture is all about what agriculture is all about. Yet, it will not be out of place to try to explain what it is all about. Some of us know agriculture simply as the science or practice of farming, including cultivation of the soil for the growing of crops and the rearing of animals to provide food, wool, and other products. Some other people also know that cultivating a piece of land, or planting and growing food plants on it is largely what agriculture means. The recurring words here in all these definitions, or all these overviews, the recurring words here are land and food. Two things. This is because we till the soil to get the food, and I believe that why we are here today is to closely and critically look at this science or arts or practice of cultivating the soil, producing crops, and raising livestock as its importance to the nation and her development. However, before delving into the topic, I consider it auspicious that the course of our trajectory will include taking a deep look at the significance of agriculture within a diversified economic framework, establishing the critical link between agricultural progress and national development, and finally, the conceptualization of renewed hope through the establishment of town and gown entrepreneurial enterprises. As we all know, before the discovery and exploration of oil in Nigeria, agriculture was the mainstay of the economies of the three regions. While the East depended on palm oil and its byproducts, the West had cocoa as its base, while the North relied on groundnut for its famous groundnut pyramids. Gradually, but steadily, the reliance on agriculture as its major income earner for Nigeria started waning, while attention was turned to oil. Currently, Nigeria is the largest oil exporting country in Africa. It also has a rapid growing economy based on the production and export of crude oil. However, the volatility of global oil prices and other extraneous circumstances have forced it to rethink, thus moving forward towards the diversification of its economy. Ironically, and by implication, we must return to the same agriculture if we must achieve the diversification in the economy. As part of the efforts by Nigeria to diversify the economy through agriculture, the country has implemented programs towards achieving that objective. These include the institution of the National Agricultural Technology Innovation Plan, NATIP, which is a 4-year program approved in 2021 to aid the country's recovery from COVID-19. We also have the Anchor Borrowers Program, which is primarily aimed at assisting farmers in increasing agricultural production, creating rural employment, and generally improving food security. With a geographical landmass of 9,223,000 kilometers, Nigeria is ranked as the largest nation in Africa for agricultural activities. It has therefore become necessary to encourage the sector through sufficient budgetary allocation and efficient utilization of allocated resources to guarantee poverty reduction, sustainable livelihood, and enhanced food security. Agricultural progress and national development are somewhat interwoven in that a country that achieves success in agriculture will most likely fast-track its national development. As I mentioned earlier, agriculture was the mainstay of Nigeria's economy before the discovery and exploration of oil, and we all can testify to the steady progress we made during those glorious years. In a developing country like Nigeria, agriculture is still a significant part of the gross domestic product, GDP. It not only provides a livelihood for a sizable part of our population, but drives economic growth through the production of food, raw materials, and export. A nation that records progress in agriculture will experience a leap in national development through food security, employment generation, particularly in the rural areas, poverty reduction, rural development, and so on and so forth. Therefore, agriculture is a fundamental pillar for national development, influencing economic stability and social equity and environmental sustainability. This brings us to the last leg of our examination of some concepts preceding this paper, which is the renewed hope through the establishment of town and gown entrepreneurial partnerships. The term town and gown was often used to refer to the relationships in most university towns like Oxford, Cambridge, and Durham. In those days, almost all the teachers as well as students were residents in the campuses. Only a few non-academic staff resided outside the university. Naturally, there are two towns competing in one town. Those inside the campuses were referred as the gowns, typically identified as the insignia of gowns, while those outside were referred to as belonging to the town. I don't think we have such scenario now in Nigerian universities. For instance, here at Moao, I was told that some students live in Ariam, Umuahia town, and so on and so, while few lucky ones reside here in Atkumudike, Amawom, and Ahieke. Of course, I can't ask where the Vice Chancellor and other staff members are residents. Yes, I know. Well, in those days in Europe and America, those inside used to be in competition with those outside, with one group claiming superiority over the other. But as time went on, it dawned on both sides that they stand to gain collectively if they collaborated. Their interactions, however, became invaluable. The local people in the university towns and the educated mass thought it wise to collaborate for their own good. In the context of the renewed hope through establishment of town and gown entrepreneurs partnerships, we will return to examine how Mao is working symbiotically with the towns surrounding it for maximum benefits. I know they are providing the bulk of your housing needs for now. I know that commercial activities are also provided by them while you are their major buyers, thus sustaining their economies. I'm also told that with the quality of staff you have at the center, people not only from Abia, but the neighboring states will become beneficiaries of your activities. The second aspect of this lecture will cover agriculture and national development, a global contextualization. Agriculture, as we have already stated, has played a key role in national economy and hence the development of many nations, including Nigeria. It is necessary for us to look at some of these nations, examining their contributions to agriculture to their GDP and their per capita income. Such a historical outlook will enable us to inch closer to dissecting our topic and use the same to acknowledge how we could achieve that which we seek. The first country we are looking at is the country called Ukraine. How many of you can tell me that you don't know a country called Ukraine, especially now that they are in war? Ukraine. Ukraine, as we know, is at war with Russia. Last week made it 1,000 days since Russia invaded the country. Yet, its prowess in agriculture remains steadfast. At the beginning of the year, Russia blocked the sea route through which Ukraine used to export grains. However, statistics have shown that the country showed that whereas the agricultural sector contributed 8.2% of the GDP, it decreased to 7.2% a few months later. But the good news is that it recorded a slight increase last month. The secret of the advancement of Ukraine lies in the government's commitment towards supporting the sector. Such support comes by way of providing low-cost loans, simplifying the imports of seeds, and introducing tax exemptions. As the world's largest exporters of corn, the agri-food sector of Ukraine is of great importance to the country. It is estimated that the sector has an annual turnover of 16 billion euros. Yet, they are in war. The second country we're going to look at is the country that is called Malaysia. Something unique can be deduced from your Malaysia experience. Malaysia is a case study of resilience, innovation, and long-term development initiatives. We are told that Malaysian officials came to Nigeria precisely from this part of the country to pick palm fruits that they planted and replicated in their own country. Today, this country is believed to be the largest exporter of palm oil in the world. The agricultural sector in Malaysia is a significant contributor to the country's economic, accounting for about 8% of her GDP. The agricultural sector also employs about 10% of the country's labor force. Apart from job creation, the sector also accounts for food security, produces raw materials for industries, and generates income for farmers. According to statistics, Malaysian global agricultural trade reached $6.1 billion in 2022 with exports of $37.4 billion US by January 2024. Are you surprised? This is a country that officials traveled all the way from Malaysia to Nigeria to pick our palm kernels, palm seedlings, and planted there. Today, the statistics are very, very, very awesome. The contributions of agriculture in national development. The next country we're going to explore is Uganda. Uganda is an African country like Nigeria. In agriculture in Uganda, agriculture is a leading economic sector in Uganda. It employs 70% of the workforce and contributes 42% to export earnings. Its leading crop is coffee. Statistics show that in the first quarter of 2023, agriculture contributed 23% of the GDP of Uganda. The sector receives massive government support and it is expected that it will continue to be the pillar of the economy in the years to come. The next country, once again, is Kenya. Agriculture makes a significant contribution to Kenya's GDP, ranging from 20 to 21% between 2016 and 2021. In terms of employment, agriculture is responsible for 70% of the workforce, including those in the rural areas. It also contributes to the foreign exchange earnings to the economy for the East African country. The next is Canada. Everybody is struggling to go to Canada. Everybody is doing all sorts of things to go to Canada. Everybody is striving to go to Canada. Let us look at Canada in relation to the agricultural policies. Canada is touted to be the world's largest exporter of wheat. In 2023, the country earned about $150 billion from agriculture. It created 1 out of every 8 jobs in rural communities. About half of Canada's primary agricultural production is exported. Although the importance of agriculture varies from province to province, agriculture and the agri-food sector are the economic powerhouse, supplying more than 2.3 million jobs, including jobs for immigrants, and contributing about 143.8 billion US dollars to the country's GDP. As you can see, distinguished members of this audience, agriculture is a natural gold mine provided by God to enable people live a quality life. From this analysis, it is quite clear that agriculture plays a key role in the national development of this country that we have just reviewed. I was actually fascinated by the statistics from Ukraine. This is a nation at war, yet its agricultural policies are still as strong as those of nations in peacetime. What it means is that with careful, deliberate, and long-term planning, our country can also attain its potentials in agriculture. I believe that all it takes is the political will backed by a determined population. That is a message from distinguished Senator Hope Uzodinma. As I told you, you are hearing his voice, not Victor Nwachukwu's voice. The third section of this presentation will be on agriculture as a catalyst for economic diversification. Agriculture as a catalyst for economic diversification. While we are clamoring for the diversification of our economy away from oil to agriculture, while we are clamoring for the diversification of our country, diversification of our economy, away from oil to agriculture, there have been some countries where the emphasis was a movement from agriculture to others. It is therefore imperative to note that diversification does not mean abandoning what yields income for economy. No, it simply means value chain addition to enhance the GDP, especially in exports. A little knowledge of the balance of trade teaches us that when the export earnings are more than the imports, the country is certainly on its way to prosperity. The challenge, therefore, is to expand what you export. For many countries, especially in Africa, the process of economic development comprises diversification, which is a transition from subsistence agriculture to processing and manufacturing. We have Tunisia, Zambia, Morocco, and Senegal as examples of countries with the most success in diversifying their economies by improving on the structure of their production and exports. Away from Africa, Chile presents an excellent performance example of a country with economic diversification. South American countries currently have 2,800 products that are exported to more than 120 countries. Chile's economy used to be dependent on copper, which will account for almost 40% of its exports. But it soon diversified to agriculture and manufacturing. Even with the copper, the country breaks it down to refined copper, copper ore, and of course, raw copper. That way, it has comparative advantage over Zambia, which exports mainly raw copper. Chile's exports in manufactured goods stands at 36% of its non-mineral exports, while exports in agriculture, forestry, livestock, and fishing stands at 7%. Many people may not know that Chile is one of the largest producers of cherry and grand cherry, grape, apple, and kiwi, which it exports to even America and other countries. With Chile's experience, it is therefore possible for African nations to seek ways of diversifying their economies, even from agriculture to agro-processing. For instance, it still baffles one why we should not be processing our coffee and cocoa to finished products through value addition. It doesn't make economic sense that we export raw products to Europe only for us to import the finished product at very exorbitant prices with the concomitant loss in the balance of trade. The Chile that I mentioned manufactures most of its nuts and fruits before exports. Africa can also do the same. We can move forward towards logistics and technology to leverage on our match to generate opportunities in related sectors. That being the case, we should look at exploring the potential of agriculture to drive diversification within the Nigerian economy. I've already mentioned how this one can be possible if we draw from the leadership philosophy of Dr. Michael Okpara during his premiership of Eastern Nigeria. It did appear that our governments at all levels paid scant attention to agriculture at the beginning of the so-called oil boom of the 1970s, just after the Civil War. The resulting affluence was used in the development of both economic and social infrastructure, but this was almost restricted to the urban areas, to the detriment of the rural areas. This resulted in the massive migration of young people from rural areas to urban areas. One direct consequence of this mass exodus is the rapid decline in agricultural production. The consequence of this error of governance is being felt till today, and will be felt until we take deliberate steps to reverse it, which is diversification. Although agriculture is still contributing to the country's GDP, a deliberate effort is needed to ensure that it contributes more than it does currently. The ultimate aim should be to work towards making agriculture replace oil as the mainstay of our economy. Like all non-renewable resources, the oil wells will dry up one day. Definitely it will. What will happen to our economy when that day comes? That's a question that we should answer today. In addition, many countries are reducing their dependence on oil, and this is a potent threat to our economy. The annual sales of electric cars are rising in every developed country, and sooner or later, fuel-driven cars will only be seen in the museums, just like the dinosaurs. Like I said, agriculture can and should be a key part of diversifying the economy. Unlike previous half-hearted attempts, this can be achieved through well-articulated and carefully implemented policies that would include short, medium, and long-term targets. The way forward must include the adoption of technology. For example, developing improved and hybrid species of both crops and animals, and mechanization. The government should undertake to provide and subsidize a variety of complementary inputs, such as hybrid seeds, seedlings, and fertilizers, as well as supporting infrastructure, such as irrigation and access roads, for the easy distribution of agricultural outputs. In the introductory part of this paper, I enumerated certain steps the federal government has embarked upon to make it happen. that Nigeria moves away from oil as our main foreign exchange earner. When we talk about diversification, we don't mean the abandonment of one source of revenue for the other. That is very, very emphatic. It's not leaving out. It's not abandoning it. No. Going by the example of Chile that I've given earlier, we can have many sources, products for exports to boost our GDP. Since we have comparative advantages in agriculture, I believe we should explore agriculture as a means of diversification of our economy. The next subheading under this topic is the imperative of research and innovation. There are global examples of successful research-driven agricultural transformations. This is why we should also evaluate the impact of research on agricultural revolutions. Such evaluation ought to lead us to the need for an emphasis on the necessity of continuous innovation in agricultural practices and technologies. A few weeks ago, when the Agricultural Society of Nigeria held its conference in Abuja, the national president, whom I am told is a professor in this institution, was lamenting that the government was not implementing the results of its research. My first reaction actually is to ascertain whether these results are truly relevant to our agricultural needs. If they are, they have been adequately published, and have they been adequately published and marketed? We did not sit and wait for the government to do everything. No. Besides, the private sector can also drive the implementation of these results to the benefit of everyone. That is, the researcher, the investor, and the consumer, and of course, the country, Nigeria. However, we all understand and appreciate the importance of research as a catalyst of agricultural revolution, and indeed, in every human endeavor that requires careful, deliberate, and determined planning and implementation. Research, as we all know, is, and I quote, a creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. It involves the collection, organization, and analysis of evidence to increase understanding of a particular topic. As you know, research is also one of the key functions of the universities. The others being teaching and community engagement. Just like I pointed out earlier with the Agricultural Society of Nigeria, universities have the responsibility to make the results of their research available to the public, not only lying at the bookshelves of libraries, not only being the parameters for promotions and other promotions. No, it is the responsibilities of universities to market the results of these research works so as to actualize the essence for which they were made. Understandably, many of such results have been derived from studies on agricultural diversification. And they confirm that agriculture can truly contribute to the economic development of Nigeria. It has been repeatedly established that agriculture can contribute to economic development by increasing food supply, creating jobs to the industrial sector, as well as increasing foreign exchange earnings. Again, diversifying income sources through agriculture can help reduce rural poverty. Instead of engaging only in subsistence farming, rural dwellers will be encouraged to engage in large-scale commercial agriculture. This is where the government will now come in by increasing agricultural productivity through better spending, allocating resources efficiently, and funding research in universities. These underscore the critical roles universities play in research and why they should be unrelenting in this quest to diversify the economy of Nigeria through agriculture. Universities as agents of agricultural transformation. Truth be told, agricultural production in Nigeria is abysmally low, believe it or not. In fact, our agriculture can be described as unproductive. Bitter truth. It is disheartening that a country of over 200 million people, predominantly young population, sitting on a vastly arable and fertile land of about 924,000 square kilometers and blessed with the best possible seasons, is unable to feed herself. Very, very, very deplorable. Instead, we rely on food importation from much smaller and less endowed countries to feed us. What an irony. That's what the governor was asking you, not Nwachukwu. What an irony. I attribute this partly to prolonged dependence on outdated farming practices and prolonged reliance on semi-wide crop varieties whose yields are poor and which are vulnerable to pests and diseases. The solution to these problems can only be found through research and development, and our universities must lead the way. I am sure that if our agriculture we are to become more productive today, many more people will not opt to become farmers, including who? Me. Worldwide, universities have always led in the advancement of the frontiers of knowledge in human endeavor, including agriculture. That perhaps accounts for why our Igbo translators call them Mahadum. University is always known as Marahadum, knowing it all. In this context, the university should lead in research, education, and extension services in agriculture. They should also promote innovation by providing basic knowledge on ways of improving the practice of agriculture, just like their foreign counterparts have been doing. As already noted, universities can play a key role in agricultural development by collaborating with agricultural ministries and research institutes. They can work with these institutes to identify farming problems, select research topics, and secure funding to enable them find solutions. Your proximity to the National Root Crop Research Institute, Umudike, should be a major advantage in this regard. Furthermore, universities, through sharing knowledge and information, can provide critical knowledge and information on agriculture and natural resource management to other levels of education. I earlier mentioned research as what universities should embark upon and translate the results to farmers. Universities can also invent and develop new machines and equipment that meet the needs of farmers. But most importantly, our universities of agriculture can train farmers on new farming techniques, such as the use of innovative technologies to improve productivity. For example, we have been noticing some changes in the patterns of rainfall in recent times. Universities have the responsibility to educate the farmers on how to modify their planting seasons to ensure that crops are not affected by late onset of the rainy season or dry season. Universities should also introduce farmers to new improved varieties of crops for planting and should help deal with pest infestations. Finally, Nigerian universities can collaborate with their counterparts abroad to evolve ways of ensuring food security in the country. This is very important because researchers abroad could have valuable expertise and experience which may prove invaluable in our drive towards food sufficiency. 10 years ago, the 13th Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Professor Bartholomew Okolo, spoke extensively on the role of Nigerian universities in the fight to avert food insecurity. In the paper entitled Nigerian Universities and Agriculture, Their Role in the Development of Agriculture for Sustainable Food Security, Professor Okolo warned of perilous times ahead, except the universities stepped up to assist in the fight against hunger. 14 years later, his words have become prophetic. And I can't say for sure that the universities have done much. You may need to revisit what he proposed as a means of ensuring that Nigeria, first of all, feeds itself and thereafter depends on agriculture for the diversification of its economy. Town and Gown Entrepreneurial Partnership, a framework for progress in Nigeria. Earlier in this lecture, I had touched on the concept of town and gown, its origin, usefulness, and of course, why we need to return to it on our present state. Without intending to offend the sensibilities of any group here or outside here, those outside the ivory tower look at you as men and women of theoretical knowledge devoid of the practical skills required for present-day realities. While such an assumption is debatable, there is no doubt that you need to prove to the other Nigerians that you do what you do in the universities has direct bearing on the lives outside the issuance of certificates. That's a challenge. Here, we are not talking about the standard of education. We are looking at the impact of the system on the society where we live. For instance, this is a university of agriculture. How has the university impacted farmers within your catchment areas? Have farmers benefited from the prodigious knowledge of agriculture? If yes, then can we doff our caps for you? If the answer is no, then there is a problem. That problem is actually what necessitated this lecture. How to solve the problem is why we are gathered here. We cannot, in all honesty, talk of agriculture and national development in a diversified economy unless we have a sharp vision of renewed hope, partnerships between the universities and their external communities. With the establishment of the Agribusiness Incubation Center in this university, it should be taken for granted that you have already taken the practical steps in collaborating with the external communities to realize these critical entrepreneurship partnerships. For the sake of clarity, let us look at the layman's definition of a partnership in enterprise. It is loosely defined as a legal agreement among people whereby they agree to contribute resources to run an enterprise and thereafter share in both profits and loss. I was really fascinated to know that one partner can generate ideas while the other takes care of the funding. This relationship presupposes that the partners are equal. If that is the case, my question will be, how many such entrepreneurial practices does MOA have as an institution? That's the question for all of us here. I am concentrating on the institution because I do know that individually, some of us here have our poultry farms, our goatry, and even snail farms, putting into practice what we teach our students. I know that the university used to have a transport business which collapsed. I know that you also have a thriving microfinance bank. I also know that you have a filling station. Some of these enterprises are run under MOA Limited. That is not a partnership. Even when your services benefit the external communities, My question, even, excuse me, that is not partnership, even when your services benefit external communities. My question again is, how many of the envisaged entrepreneurial partnerships have you midwifed? How many? How many of the envisioned entrepreneurial partnerships have you midwifed? Have you brought to life? If you go on to the websites of Oxford University, you find an interesting invitational advertisement for external organizations and partners. It reads, and I quote, "At Oxford University, we are passionate about working with partners to address real-world challenges, whether that's licensing technology, licensing technology or starting a spin-out, collaborating with industry or partnering with charities. We want to ensure the greatest impact for our research, unquote. The university went further to list options for potential partners to choose from. I stand to be corrected. If we have any of our universities in Nigeria aggressively pursuing entrepreneurial partnerships like Oxford University is doing, I stand to be corrected. This is not being said to devalue your most valued contributions toward the advancement of education in the country. It is just to nudge you to be more aggressively challenged in the discharge of your national assignments. We need to evaluate the potential benefits of town and gown entrepreneurial partnerships in Nigeria. These include enhanced productivity, value addition, job creation, and rural development. Just imagine if, through your ideas, 5 agro-based industries are set up in Abia State. How at least 1,000 youths will be employed, the value addition in the supply chain of the products, and how the communities will experience a new lease of life. If half of the universities then follow our hypothetical example, would we not have been halfway through curbing unemployment and at the same time increasing productivity? If we had then taken on a framework for the progress of the entrepreneurial partnerships that we deserve, this is the time we need to redouble our efforts at universities through mentoring. A critical appraisal of Nigerian universities of agriculture. After the establishment of universities of agriculture at Abeokuta and Makurdi in 1988, the federal government deemed it necessary to balance the geographical spread by setting up a similar institution here in Umudike in 1992. This was later renamed to Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike. Before this time, there were a number of agricultural research institutes and colleges of agriculture in different parts of the country. In addition, many of the comprehensive universities in Nigeria, such as University of Nigeria, Nsukka, University of Ibadan, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and others, also offered courses in various aspects of agriculture, including soil science, crop science, animal production, agricultural extension, and others. Therefore, the idea behind setting up dedicated universities of agriculture must have been to have universities that will focus on agriculture and food production. This can be deduced from your motto: knowledge, food, and security. As a Nigerian patriot, I am minded to appraise the 3 universities of agriculture to ascertain the impact that they have made in the Nigerian agricultural landscape. Sure, all the 3 universities have graduated thousands of students, from undergraduate students to postgraduate students, and on and on. Surely, they have offered employment opportunities to tens of Nigerians. They have even affected their external and host communities through the development of infrastructure and the deepening of their economies. All these and more are expected of universities that have the responsibility of teaching, research, and community service. At any rate, most of the universities in Nigeria have excelled in teaching and tried their best in research, but fallen short in community service, especially in the entrepreneurial partnership, which much needed for agricultural transformation in Nigeria. But I am an Igbo man. My Karobara, whom this university was named after, remains my hero. His social pragmatism resonates with my administration's development ideals, known as Prosperity Agenda, encapsulated as reconstruction, rehabilitation, and recovery. Obara believed so much that agricultural reforms were critical to Nigeria's economic prosperity. His developmental models of 1962 and 1968 focused on using agriculture to achieve industrialization. The farm settlements he set up in so many areas were designed to be a springboard to the agricultural revolution he envisaged. The oil palm plantations, the cocoa, rubber estates, and cashew estates, and several others were geared towards growing agro-processed industries. His tenure has been widely described as the golden era of selfless, visionary, and good governance in Nigeria. With agriculture, Obara made Eastern Nigeria's economy the fastest growing one in sub-Saharan Africa. I'm therefore curious to know how far this lucky university named after him has gone ahead to sustain his legacies, at least through the number of mentorships it has achieved so far. Ladies and gentlemen, and my distinguished scholars, it is not easy to be an academic or a scholar at all. Providing leadership at a higher level is also a tasking job. People outside these circles do not normally appreciate the enormous sacrifices you make regularly in your job. But there are basic things expected of you. No matter how you look at it, there must be tangible output for people to behold and appreciate your efforts. Let me illustrate the simplest of things by asking you the following questions. How many of you lecturers in this university eat bananas harvested from your own farms? How many? How many? Do not be shy. Own up. How many of you eat plantains harvested from your farms? No hands. Or how many of you take fruits such as oranges, pineapples, and others harvested from your farms? Of course, if you don't, I doubt that many ordinary people will have much respect for you as the agricultural experts you claim to be. My thoughts on the way forward. As we draw to a close, I would like to reiterate the key issues which I discussed in the course of our conversation and discuss the way forward this afternoon. Let me put it on record that, on the one hand, I'm happy that this prestigious University of Agriculture is placing due emphasis on the inseparable link between agriculture and national development. On the other hand, my happiness is incomplete because we are yet to reach the promised land in agriculture, national development, and economic diversification. Of course, we have made so much progress over the years, but if you look back to where we began and where we are, it will be obvious that our best days in terms of the contributions of agriculture to economic and national development is quite far behind us. It is also common knowledge that for generations, farming was the major occupation of our communities. Before the British arrived, and even in those early years of independence, most Nigerians, over 75% of the population, tilled the land. we grew a wide variety of crops, from grains and tubers that sustained us to cocoa, groundnuts, and palm oil that we traded with the world. In 1960, when we celebrated our political independence, agriculture was the king. It contributed a whopping 60 to 64% of our GDP. Think of that. More than half of our wealth as a nation came from the soil. It was agriculture that earned us the foreign currency we needed, and it provided jobs for the vast majority of our people, around 70 to 80%. Today, agriculture contributes only 23% to our GDP. We struggle to feed our people and employ our youth. But the calamity is not really the shrinking direct contribution of agriculture to our GDP. In fact, history shows that as nations develop, the direct contributions of agriculture to GDP tends to decline. But hardly, if ever, in the developed world, does this nominal decline amount to food insufficiency. On the contrary, our own issue is that our initial attempt to diversify was so abrupt, impulsive, and ill-thought that the evolution of our agricultural sector was truncated. Thus, the declining contribution of our agricultural sector to GDP has come to abnormally corresponded to worsening food insecurity. We adopted petrodollar and orphaned agri-dollar. True or false? True or false? We adopted petrodollar and orphaned agri-dollar. A volatile commodity like crude oil quickly toppled agriculture as our biggest source of foreign exchange. Thus, we also became a volatile economy at the mercy of temperamental markets. We forgot to develop the agricultural value chain and therefore failed to build the muscle to carry our population into industrial development. I am of the view that agriculture remains the basis for national development and national security. A nation that cannot feed itself is not indeed sovereign. As the founder of the world's central kitchen, Jesse Andrea once said, and I quote, "Food is national security. Food is economy. It is employment. It is energy. It is history. It is everything." Do you believe that? I recall with a sense of nostalgia that in the immediate post-independence era, we were feeding ourselves, exporting, building our nation, all thanks to the handwork of our farmers. Interestingly, we had just about 5 universities. Today we have 279 universities in the state. And I ask, is there a correlation between the increase in the number of universities and decrease in our food security capacity? That's a question. Many of our farmers still use outdated methods. We have not adopted modern techniques and technologies as widely as we could have, which means our productivity is not even what it should be. Yet, we have more universities to lead the way. Even when we do have a good harvest, a lot of that precious food goes to waste because we do not have adequate and efficient storage facilities. Yes, some of the challenges are beyond our control, like climate change, which is making our weather more unpredictable and affecting our harvest. And in some parts of the country, conflict and insecurity make it difficult and dangerous for farmers to even work in the land. As gloomy as the situation is, we should be undaunted. We need to remind ourselves that Nigeria still has enormous agricultural potentials. Our land is fertile, we know, and we can grow a huge variety of crops. The federal government has also enabled initiatives like the Special Agricultural Industrial SPZ, Special Agricultural Industrial Processing Zones, SAPZ, which aim to provide jobs and enhance value addition in agriculture. It is also encouraging that young people in starting to take an interest in agriculture again. And I must commend the government for stimulating their interest in this regard. Through programs like Empower, the Youth Empowerment Program in Agriculture, YIP, and the Anchor Borrowers Program from the federal side, and our own homegrown initiatives in Imo State, like the One Kindred, One Business initiative we call Okobi in Imo State. We are drawing our youth back to the farms. They are bringing new ideas and energy to the sector. They are not afraid to embrace technology. We are also seeing more private investors putting their money into agriculture, which is crucial for growth. So while the challenges are real, there is reason to also be optimistic. Again, not surprisingly, we are also behind in national development. We already know that national development in simple terms means money for our people, for our country, as well as real improvements in the lives of all Nigerians. Macro and micro economic prosperity, in other words, this involves making sure our people have access to good healthcare, quality education, and clean environment, that we are building better roads. As we have established, national development is much higher than GDP. In fact, the concept of GDP growth can become a provocation if the streets cannot feel the impact in terms of access to good healthcare, quality education, and healthy environment. That is why development experts are looking beyond simple economic measures to get better picture of how our country is doing. They are using measures like the Human Development Index, which looks like health and education levels, and the Genuine Progress Indicator, which considered environmental and social factors alongside economic. I must sum up this lecture by emphasizing that the future of agriculture depends on our ability and willingness to keep innovating, keep researching, and keep pushing to the boundaries of what is possible. But if you ask me, I think our universities of agriculture, such as the Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, must lead the way to innovative context-relevant solutions for the future. However, we definitely need to increase funding for agricultural research. Regional organizations like Ohaneze Ndigbo and the Southeast Economic Development Fund, which I have advocated in the past, can mobilize funds strictly for research into modern and efficient food production in Igbo land. For example, I'm sure that every Igbo man would like to see the return of the local cow, known as Ehi Igbo. I would personally like to also see improved and fast-growing species of Okuku Igbo and Ewu Igbo, which are now going extinct. What of the prized asset, Ngwo? That unique tree that produces the best palm wine. If we do not do the needful, we will one day start importing palm wine and Oba from China. We should encourage interdisciplinary research where experts from different fields collaborate to solve complex problems in agriculture. As we have seen throughout this lecture, agriculture is not all about growing food. It is the bedrock of our national development. A thriving agricultural sector is essential for building a diversified Nigerian economy that provides opportunities for all. We have looked at the power of town and gown partnerships and concluded that these collaborations between universities and our communities and the business sector are indispensable. This partnership holds the key to unlocking agricultural innovation, fueling economic growth, and creating a brighter future for our nation. In conclusion, I make bold to say that agriculture holds the key to national development. Everyone has a role to play. As Bill Mathers aptly captured it, each and every member of the food industry, from farm to fork, must create a culture where food safety and nutrition is paramount. So I make this call of action to students, faculty, community members, and business leaders. Embrace agriculture, fund it, research on it, and work on it because it will transform Nigeria. It will diversify our economy. It will develop our country beyond imagination. But above all, it will grant us the few security we need to be truly a sovereign nation. Let us return to the land and save our nation. Thank you for your time. May God bless you. Stein, Senator Hope, Uzodimma, Governor, Imo State.
Please let's give His Excellency a resounding round of applause as well as a standing ovation. We watch His Excellency now hand over a copy of the 12th convocation lecture of this great university to our Vice Chancellor. Please let's give me a round of applause once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed.
May we have our seats, please? May I once again humbly invite the chairman of the 12th convocation lecture to the rostrum to make some remarks. Chairman, sir.
The gentle lecturer will thank you for the wonderful presentation you did. In fact, after listening to you and all the examples given by His Excellency, I think everybody here will change, will become agrarian society. In part of what you presented, Okpara, the former governor of Eastern Region, have been mentioned severally in that lecture. Okpara became what he was because he revolutionized agriculture. Though he was a medical doctor by profession, but he was remembered more for bringing something new in agricultural development, from where the Eastern region were able to build University of Nigeria and Nsukka and all the things they did. The idea is, if Okpara strategy works, why can't it now work within our governors? If Okpara as a governor was able to bring such a thing, why can't the governors of Nigeria today bring the same idea to work? Your Excellency, please, we would like to hear that the examples of opera is repeated in Imo, in Anambra, in Enugu, Ebonyi, and others. Somebody was asking why the lecture was going on. He said, opera established farm settlements all over the southeast and south-south. He said, where are those farm settlements? Are we going forward? Are we going backwards? That's number one. Therefore, we would like to repeat what Okpara did. If we can't do more than him, do that as governors of Southeast Nigeria. We can do that as professors of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture. We can do that as University of Agriculture. Because one of the things of having a specialist university is to drive the nation towards solving our problem. And the problem now is hunger. And hunger, a hungry man is an angry man. An angry man is a violent man. A violent man is an irrational man. An irrational man is an ungovernable man. And therefore, we can't allow that to continue. In the lecture, you also mentioned the entrepreneurial university. In one of my presentations in a convocation lecture like this, we propose having an entrepreneurial university. Converting some of these universities we have into entrepreneurial university. We were able to see the chart of one university in America, the income they have every year is more than what 10 states join together. Because they have more than 1,000 startups coming from research within. That was why I was talking about having a local content and no international content. And therefore, this university can copy something we have. Number one, a University of Agriculture can have entrepreneurial capacity in oil palm plantation. For example, for 1 hectare of oil palm of a special breed I know we use in Enugu, we have about 140 stands. And that stand will give you 1 hectare will yield 6 tons of oil palm. And if you go to the market today, it's over 350,000 naira per ton. That means if we have up to 1,000 hectares, we are going to make 2.4 billion every year. Even if the university is not going to handle it themselves, there is an agency, if you pay them 150 million out of the 2.4 billion, they can handle it for you in a year. And therefore, I want to put it that we should copy Ekpara, we should also go entrepreneur. We thank you for the wonderful lecture, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Once again, I stand here to humbly invite the Vice Chancellor to appreciate the Chairman of the occasion.
Thank you very much. We have to appreciate the lecturer and the chairman of the occasion. On behalf of the Governing Council and the Senate and people of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Modike, it's our pleasure to acknowledge the great work His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma did this evening. The lecture has been distributed to all of us, and it was fascinating. We cannot rush aside and to say thank you for coming all the way and for presenting to us tidbits of what we can do to make Nigeria better. Please accept our appreciation. Thank you very much. We have to thank Pros Oluka. They should have called you Aloka, not Oluka. Because what you did this evening is what Alokas do. He's a conscripted chairman, but he has done the job so perfectly. And we cannot say anything than thank you. So on behalf of the university, please, we appreciate you, our chairman. Thank you so much. Finally, on appreciation, ndị Igbo si onye na-egbu opi na-efichi imi. Prof, we know you are also conscripted, but we have heard the voice of Senator Hope Uzodimma this evening. For being here, you are one of our colleagues. You are also on the part of government. We want to say thank you for the job well done.
Thank you, sir. Finally, having spent our day very well, may I once again invite the Vice Chancellor to declare the 12th convocation lecture closed. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
We appreciate God Almighty for giving us the grace to come this far in our program today. We want to thank Senate members for being present. We want to thank all our invited guests. I've just been told that the Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Uyo is here in our midst. Prof, you are welcome. And I believe that other Vice Chancellors and their representatives are here. This program will continue tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Our procession will proceed at 11 o'clock. And we shall hear more people speaking to us tomorrow. So thank you very much. On behalf of the Senate of Michael O'Brien University of Agriculture Mudike and all the people, the Governing Council, I want to bring this lecture session of the 12th Convocation Lecture closed.
Thank you very much indeed. I will request that we please rise as we take the anthems, the national anthem and our university anthem. The congregation will also be upstanding as the academic procession retreats from this hall. The national anthem. academic procession now retreats, with the Vice Chancellor leading the way, followed by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, the Convocation Lecturer, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, the University Orator, the Dean of Postgraduate School, Deans of Colleges, Dean of Students Affairs, professors, members of Senate who are not professors, academic staff, in that order. Shall we please have the jazz for the procession? Shall we follow suit? We shall be taking photographs to remember today. We shall be taking photographs outside the Senator Anyim Pius Anyim Auditorium to commemorate this great occasion. We sincerely thank the chairman of today's occasion. We also thank the chairman of our governing council and members of the governing council. Please shall we observe the academic procession properly as it retreats, please. Let's not go out disorderly. This is an academic procession retreating from this hall. Please, let's be in that order. Many thanks indeed to our erudite scholars. Many thanks indeed to our guests. Many thanks indeed to members of the governing council of this university. Many thanks indeed to our friends from the host communities. Many thanks indeed to our visitors from Imo State. We pray that your going back home will be safe and smooth. Our photographers, please, would like you to take pictures. Members of the governing council, members of management, with the representative of the governor, the 12th convocation lecturer, in that order. I must thank members of the 4th estate of the realm. I thank you sincerely for coming again. Please, let's meet in my office now. Thank you.